Then 33 it is.
33. And
Still doing it.
we have to start every time. We're still doing it. Still haven't even edited the last two. We're still doing it. Okay, so I thought I'm being guided to actually have a topic be picked by a set of an oracle deck. And so we actually don't have a topic, but obviously we can talk about anything and everything. So I'll see where it actually flows, and it'll be a topic. So how excited are you, or nervous are you about this?
I'm excited. Depends. Should I be nervous?
Ooh, this is exactly what we were thinking about talking
Fire
about.
nice. All right.
Wait, so I don't know if you can. I do this.
I can.
And then you could put it up
Yeah.
on the thing. It's number 37, and it's fire and ice. So I think
it is the topic we were talking about beforehand.
Yeah, we were thinking about it, but we weren't sure. So I'm like, well, how about if we're meant to, then the oracle deck will tell us. But apparently we're meant to.
So we had a trying last week or so.
Just 1 week or two? A week and like 2 weeks. Week and a half, maybe?
I guess it started probably last Tuesday.
I don't remember.
I think it was Tuesday. I think that was the day that it started. You have to be very delicate. What we say here.
Yeah, we so it was associated. It was a business transaction, but we're not going to discuss it from the business transaction standpoint. We're going to discuss it from
higher point of view.
Higher point of view, yeah, like as the universe presented it to us, as opposed to what the 3-dimensional implication of it were. And so I don't know how much we, like, can we talk about it without actually discussing the 3-dimensional implication of it? But basically, I mean, like a brushstroke. I hope this is going to be enough. We had a client
who told us they were moving away.
He told us they were moving away, and the client was. Well, I say this. See, maybe we should say this. The relationship between us and this client, who wasn't actually really a client, it was kind of like a buyout situation.
Two times over.
2 times over. Yeah, it was a company was bought out 2 times over. So he wasn't actually our client, but he came into our world as a client, I guess, right, by default. But there was very little interaction with him. But his world imploded along, and then we got sucked into it ourselves.
Yeah.
But maybe something to observe here is if somebody else's world is completely imploding around them, but like, right, then their immediate sphere of touching, right, everything they touch within their sphere will look like the extension of that implosion.
Instead of the Midas touch, it's like the opposite. Instead of everything turning to gold, everything turns to shit.
Yeah. But, sooner or later, when your pain body is not acknowledged and is not allowing to flow in the way that you and I do, like, right, the way we do this, why we do this is because we are allowing everything that is trapped inside us to flow, as opposed to, basically harden and resent and fester. And it's still, I'm not saying that they're still not hardening and festering, but we spend most of our time attempting not to have stuck energy as opposed to always allowing it to flow.
Yeah.
But if somebody's that, in this case, we came in contact with someone who is, I cannot say how blind they are, but unaware that their internal suppression of their emotional state of being is causing an arousal into the world, and then the world reflects that, and they will continue to flow until somebody acknowledges that all the I would, this is going to be rude, but all the demons that are trying to get out and flow out want to be acknowledged, right? Your pain body wants to be acknowledged. Your anger wants to be acknowledged. The rage wants to be acknowledged. But if you are not, if you spend most of your time not entrapping that energy in, it will just become your reality in the outflow manifestation.
Yeah. In a Jungian shadow sense, like that, like literally.
Sure. Sure. We had a discussion of how I don't necessarily like the Jungian shadow terms. I don't disagree with them, but I don't think it paints a complete picture.
Shadow or archetypes?
Oh, it's the same thing. The archetypes have the shadows within them. The archetype is supposed to represent the light and the shadow.
Okay. I don't know.
No,
I
never
don't
know.
know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough about it to. I know that like the in brushstrokes, if you project your shadow, you cast your shadow onto the world, and a lot of people have really long shadows, and that's if you're seeing things you don't like in other people, there's a very, very good chance it's because there's a part of you inside of you that feels that way.
Yeah, this still resonates with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason why we experience what we experience is because there was still some resonance, not necessarily in their direct match, but the dualistic sense of you on our end with that situation.
Yeah. And you're probably suppressing it to some degree.
Yeah. Right. But I do think we initially approached all of it with the idea of what is it teaching us?
No, that's the thing, is that as awful as this was,
It's not that awful.
it wasn't that awful. I mean,
but you know what? 5 years ago, it would have been awful.
5 years ago, it would have been really awful.
We would have flipped the fuck out.
We would have flipped out. Yeah.
In this case, it was like we were like, oh look.
Yeah. No, I saw this as this is something that is objectively an unpleasant thing to go through. There's no good in any of this on our end.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, well, look at this. This is an amazing teaching experience, and it's so removed from us. It's not like
we're no way affected
no one's
by it.
dying. It's not it's not a serious thing. It at least not to us. That we got this lesson. We're like, oh, there are lessons here. There are a lot of lessons here.
Yeah.
And we get to experience. We get to hopefully learn these lessons through a very gentle lesson instead of a hard bottom or something.
Yeah. In fact, I think you and I mentioned this multiple times, but this would be a good time to say it, is like the situation was actually not a thing at all. The entire thing was not a thing. Like from business standpoint, nothing about it should have actually caused it to go the way it did.
No, it somehow imploded in the most bizarre way that I still don't understand how it went to where it went.
Well, how it went is because the energy on the individual's behalf that caused them to experience that turmoil for a year.
That's the only explanation, because it makes no logical sense to have gone that way.
Yeah. So from the standpoint of trapped energy, right? Simplest things, most rudimentary things will become most ginormous things that to an outsider you would go like, this is not even a thing. Like this shouldn't be happening, but yet it's somebody else's reality. And so what we got to see is we got to see somebody else's reality that basically became a complete cluster something.
It wouldn't be the first time you said it on this podcast.
That is true. That's true. I don't want to use harsh words, but maybe I just should just allow them to flow. But it was out of nothing, right? But we got to experience it from like, oh, look what it is bringing up.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think to begin with, what transpired the action on our end that allowed the implosion to happen is the human being that we dealt with has a lot of unprocessed anger and rage.
I agree. I had I guess one interaction with him before that over the phone, and it quickly went south. But like, how?
Not like from your standpoint. Like you went, oh, here's what this relationship is.
Yeah, I just went. Yeah, it's like you talk to someone, and this could be just a normal, polite conversation, but it very quickly went into like these little like jabs, little like thinly veiled insults, and I'm like, that's and I is he consciously doing this? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will give him the benefit of the doubt and say, no, he's not going, ooh, how can I say something that's mean? I don't even know that he's doing that. I think it's just
No, I think he has unprocessed trauma.
Yeah, it's unprocessed trauma.
Unprocessed
saying that
trauma.
that's his nature is just another way of saying that there's unprocessed trauma in there.
Yeah. So no, he has unprocessed trauma, trapped energy, a lot of anger, a lot of unprocessed anger, unprocessed rage, and it comes through as rudeness and disrespect.
Yes.
And so-
It very much seems rude and disrespectful.
Yeah. And so the second that situation came into our life, like through this resale, 2 times over, I saw the rudeness and disrespect. And so the part that I need to work on that I see within myself is I don't feel like I need to deal with people who are rude and disrespectful. And so my go-to is I pull away. Like I go, oh yeah, guess what? I spend my lifetime being treated and mistreated. And so yeah, from that, I guess the dualistic standpoint is I remove myself from it.
Right.
And so I went into the like, yeah, I don't want to deal with this. This is
Right.
bullshit.
And it's easy to justify because they're no longer a customer.
Yeah.
Too. It's like,
Well, yeah, but talk about your end of it though.
Yeah. My end is I want to people please, and I want to help too.
No, I want to help too, but at the same time,
And at the same time,
the override of the
what we saw
anger.
yesterday, where on Resident Alien, and they're like, you just want to help people because it makes you because you want to look good to people, and I'm like, ugh. I'm like, there's probably some of that too in me.
Mm.
And it's like, if I see someone or some situation where I can help,
Mm-hmm.
I feel borderline compelled to help. I feel like
based on your pain body though. So
yeah,
there's
yes, based on my pain body. Yeah,
you can feel the
I can help.
urge to help from like
Yes.
wholesome standpoint.
Yeah, it is not always. Maybe sometimes it is, but plenty of times it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I did not have what they wanted, but I could have, I guess done research to give them to look it up, and but it's like that's doing unpaid work for someone who's not our customer. It doesn't even make sense to do that. But yet I felt in me this urge to like, should I? I really seriously felt that.
Yeah, but reevaluation there on your end is like whether it's paid or not paid, you feel the urge to help because you want to come across a way.
Yeah, I want to come across as nice and helpful, and
Yeah.
I want people to like me.
Yeah, because your pain body goes down to being loved.
Yeah.
And your idea.
But this has been a I've done this my whole life in all kinds of horribly unhealthy ways, and it just turns into me, just rolling over and giving everybody what they want, and there's no self-respect that I have for myself in this situation, and there's no respect that anybody else has for me because it's just Elliot will do whatever we ask him to.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually I try to go, well, I know my tendency is to just roll over and give everybody whatever they want, even if I have to, go do work and research, to the opposite of, no, I'm just not.
No, but I drive you to that.
Yeah, you did.
I drive you to that. Yeah.
But it was almost like a,
both of us entered into so the fire and ice of the situation, right?
Yeah.
It is this dualistic state of being. Both of us kept on flip-flopping from one side of a pain body to the other side of the pain body.
Yeah.
Back and forth. Being triggered by somebody else's unprocessed pain body, right? Which is what life is, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a bunch of flip-flopping, but it was, most of it was like just flip-flopping to the side you described of, no, I don't want anything to do with it. Don't even want to talk. This is not my problem.
Well, it's because on my end, I'm justifying and showing to you how you're falling back into your status quo.
Yeah.
And I'm falling back into my status quo. And our status quos happen to match.
And it's easy to justify not my problem because it isn't my problem. It's somebody else's problem.
It quite literally has nothing to do with us.
It has nothing to do with us. Yeah, that's the larger picture.
But we got triggered because we were being blamed for it having to do with us.
Yeah.
Like, right. So the trigger was
we secretly have the information that we're not giving or something. It's like, no, we just don't.
Yeah. No, I choose not to do the grunt work that somebody else is choosing not to do.
One could look it up. One could do research and go dig it out of wherever.
Yeah.
But that's not me. That's not my job.
Yeah. Yeah. But to begin with, you took it as your job for the people pleasing. And I automatically went into, I'm not going to deal with this because this person is extremely rude, disrespectful, and a bully, and I don't play with bullies. Right? Yeah. So both of us went into some sort of like a 3-dimensional defense mode, or I went into defense and you went into like rollover mode.
Right. And the funny thing is that we both did that simultaneously. And so they were getting all kinds of mixed messages from us, which it was just not great.
Yeah. So you were doing that on your end. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. This has actually nothing to do with us, whatever. And then the trigger between you and I happened is you undermining me in business, which I feel. And so that is something that we always struggled with, is the actions on your end undermined us as a company because you roll over and let people abuse you and use you.
Yeah.
And I get frustrated because I'm like, wait, how am I supposed to keep this company running from the business standpoint if you're just rolling over to everything?
Right. And I internally justify that as I'm not actually helping with anything. I'm not telling them anything. I'm not doing any research. But, I am at the same time, wasting my time communicating with them in the first place.
Yeah, it was just a clusterfuck shit.
So all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, no, it was a lot. It was a lot. And so we spent a lot of the times going between trying to justify the situation we were in and why we were in the right to act the way we were acting.
A lot of trying to justify, but at the same time, it was very conflicting.
Yeah, but at the same time, like there was this voice in the back of both of our minds, I think, that was going like, something's missing from this approach.
Yeah.
Like, because to me, I'm like, oh no, I see where I'm being triggered and I see what I'm doing. But at the same time, because I'm being treated, very badly by everyone involved, my 3-dimensional response is, my goodness, this is next level rudeness. Why would I ever help? Why would I ever be kind?
Why there's 8 billion people in the world, and why would I associate with people who are actively mean instead of people who, are not?
Yeah. And continue to say mean things and imply mean things.
Yeah, they're just loading more on.
Yeah.
At one point, I'm like, wait a minute. What would Jesus do in this situation? What would if Jesus was sitting here or Buddha was sitting here, how would he respond to this? And I'm like, would he personally go in and do the research for free for this person and send it over? I still I'm not sure how, from a 3D sense, what email reply does Buddha send? I don't know. I do know no attachments in the email. That's a Buddhist joke.
Oh, that's next level bad. Oh my gosh. You're such a doofus.
Can a Buddhist use email? Yes, but no attachments.
Did you come up with that?
No, I read it. So I can't even take the credit for it.
It took me a while to register that. I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, and after you ask that question, like you and I sat there and go, well, I'm like, I know Buddha would not be in this situation to begin with. So I know the fact that we are in this situation and Jesus would not be in this situation. And I know the answer to everything is love and light, right? And so I was sitting there at some point, and I think I was sleeping at night also trying to propagate this, is like, and in fact, I have a dream given to me that something is missing. Like there's this portion of something is missing. And I know what's missing is there's no way I can find love in the circumstances where somebody is actively just rude beyond any reasonable conversation. And and on my end, like I feel the need to deal with it because I don't want you to roll over.
Right. Well, at this point, I'm
Yeah,
so
you're like,
militantly opposite of rolling over that I'm like, no, I'm 100% in, but not for the right reason either.
yeah. Well, no, and it was very obvious to us, the conversations we kept on having, trying to understand our position, is it the Nietzsche saying is you become the evil that you fight, or whatever that is.
I wasn't. I think it might have been Nietzsche. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so
We just heard that.
we
like
just
the,
heard
the
that
day before too, or
yeah,
during
like
it.
when this whole thing started,
Right.
that was the saying that registered with us.
Yeah.
And in fact, they were talking about Nazis, right? And to me, I have been on the path of like evaluating all my preconceived notions and beliefs.
A lot of Nazi stuff lately.
Yeah. Yeah, and our son was just in The Sound of Music, and he played a Nazi there, and of course, the whole thing is about Nazis. Well, Nazis and love, right? But this is not any different. This is Nazi and love situation as well, right? Like we perceive an aggressor, right? And the only human 101 defense is to either fight aggression with aggression, or in my case is like, okay, well, I realize that fighting aggression with aggression is wrong, so therefore my only fight, because I don't want to fight, my only action is to withdraw from the fight.
It's literally fight or flight.
Yeah, I guess, but consciously.
Yeah.
This was a conscious thought.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I do not want to be the aggressor.
Yeah.
I'm being aggressed at, and I do not want to.
Getting into a yelling match on the phone isn't.
Yes.
Is objectively worse, I would say, than going, no, I'm just not going to.
Yeah, and I sooner or later I got into a yelling match on the phone, and I did. That is not the proudest. With somebody else who was more aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody else who was more aggressive and more accusatory, and none of those were my proudest moments. This was just like 3 days ago. So 3 days ago, I experienced a very, very non-proud of moment for myself. I'm still like going, wow, how low can you sink? But at the same time, as all of this is happening, you and I are trying to figure out like, what is the right action if somebody is aggressor, right? From Buddha's standpoint, the non-violence, right? If somebody's approaching to you with violence, it is so, so difficult not to respond back with violence, right? You become the enemy that you fight, right? And from the Nazi standpoint, it's like I still, right, like part of me goes, okay, but they are marching into the country and killing everybody along the way. Like, what do you do?
Do you not go grab a gun and try to fight back?
Yeah, I don't know, right?
I don't know.
I mean, that is like Gandhi's thing is literally that. Right? You just let them beat you. And I'm like,
yeah, but it seems like, I don't know. It doesn't sound great, but Nazi Germany versus, a Gandhi-led group of people, that's not going to work out well for the Gandhi-led group of people.
No, and it didn't.
And there will not be a Gandhi-led group of people after that they'll just be literally exterminated. That's my fear of how that would play out.
I know, but I think so. We are back to the conversation of this on a 3-dimensional plane, right?
Yeah.
We are discussing, we're almost coming into a wall, and we're not even seeing a solution because we're just bumping into this wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what you and I did for, let's say a week, a little under a week. We were bumping into that wall. As the wall presented us with aggression, we were like, what do we do? What do we do, right? And then you and I, it's like, well, I don't want to be the enemy. I don't want to be the evil fighting the evil.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I don't want to fight. I just don't want to fight. Therefore, the withdraw was my approach to it.
Again, I think is the most justifiable thing, because it's like, here's somebody else's issue it literally has nothing to do with us. So why would we engage in the first place?
Yeah, but the lesson is there. This is what the lesson is for us: is we were between fire and ice.
Mm-hmm.
The card is, what does it say? Fire and ice. I don't even know what the text says. Maybe I should read it afterwards to see how applicable this conversation was in relation to what the card said. Oh, that would be really cool. I should remind me to do that.
We can put it at the end.
And
Yeah.
I'll read it too, and then maybe you can. Oh, wait, is that too much to get the text? Or Galapalooza. Right. And so you and I kept on bouncing between
Right.
the fire and ice.
And I noticed a lot of the time this desire to just step in and help. I mean, I noticed it inside of me. I'm like, ooh, left to my own devices, I would go.
Yeah, but help from the fire and ice
help
standpoint.
from the wrong reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
right.
help because here's someone in need, but help because I want to look a certain way.
Yes, right. What we did not see is helping. If the helping was the helping, it needed to come from the right place. Right. And then you and I spend a lot of time bouncing between the right and wrong, or fire and ice, the dualistic standpoint, but never actually actualizing. But what is the third point between the fire and ice? Right?
Mhm.
Is there a point of cohesion? Right? From Jesus' standpoint and Buddha's standpoint, where would they be at? And in that dream, I was playing with paper mache, which was like, what is the most
Malleable.
or like even workable, or even like a useless form of interpretation, right? I'm designing something out of paper mache. Like the idea behind this large structure made out of paper mache is almost paints the dualistic standpoint of it being large, right? And being created, but it's made out of the lightest things, right? Yeah, I think there's like still a lot of metaphors within that dream that I haven't processed. But outside of the dream, the entire tone was something is missing. Like you're building this paper mache thing, but it will not turn out right because something is missing. And then I told you that in the morning, and then you were like, "Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean," because I think you also know what's missing. There's something missing from like the week,
Yeah.
from the week worth of endeavors. And so then at some point it dawns on me that the whole thing should have been started with truth, which is like, I don't know. Now that I think about it, I'm like, right, there was no heart in it. There was pain of like one side and pain of the other side.
Yeah. The truth, not that we were never lying about anything.
Oh, no, not that truth. Not three-dimensional truth, heart truth.
Yeah.
When I say truth, I meant heart.
Yeah.
Right? But we were not in our heart.
No, it was some bounce between defense and offense.
Fire and ice.
Yeah. All over. Nothing sends you into defense and offense like a letter from a lawyer.
Yeah. Well, no, I was already in that mode.
I mean, yeah.
The second I got accused of doing something wrong,
yeah,
when
but
we did the zero things wrong.
That just reinforces it, though, to me.
Yeah.
It's like next level stuff.
Yeah, but I think that was another test of like, oh, look, here's a situation that has nothing to do with you. You're already like, oh, screw this shit. Everybody's literally being more mean to us about us doing nothing wrong. Why would I be kind back? And that's what it was. It was like, it has nothing to do with us. Everybody's mean. Everybody's accusatory. Why would you be kind back? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And then at the same time, you would see like, well, I don't want to roll over and give it to them out of fear. Right? But at the same time, I don't want to propagate I don't want to propagate the messages that unkindness and rudeness works.
Right.
Threats work because there was threats being poured our way. Right?
Yeah.
And so then you're like, this literally has nothing to do with me, but I'm continuing to be being rude at. I'm continuing to be threatened.
Yeah.
Why would I comply?
And it's like, we were never misleading or anything.
There's no lying.
Our responses were always, I am confused why you think we have anything to do with this.
Yeah, and they're confused.
We just don't. And sure, they're confused, and I don't understand. I don't expect, normal people to know about
Yeah, but I think when
technical
we
stuff, just like I don't know about all kinds of other things.
I think when we said that we have nothing to do with it, they simply didn't believe us because we were so offensive about it.
Yeah, we were offensive in response.
In response to rudeness.
Because of a trigger, sure.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, they're being short and defensive. They must know. They must have all of our secret information.
Yeah, it's like some sort of evil, you know.
Right, yeah. I've got their information tied to the railroad tracks, waiting for in a black and white movie, waiting for the train to come.
Yeah. No, it almost felt that way. So at some point I realized, oh, they perceive our shortness and our like not dealing with them.
I never connected that. I thought it was incompetence. I did.
No, it is still incompetence, but not knowing that we are actually saying the truth because they can't figure stuff out on their end. I think I realized, oh no, because they have no clue, they perceived our shortness as some sort of evil plan, as opposed to, and no, of course, I still don't know if that's the case. I'm just taking a guess now. As opposed to like, wait, why would they act this way? Why would they act this way? Right?
Yeah.
It was a lot.
A lot. The way it resolved, I don't know, what jumped to the end.
No, that's fine.
was great. I'm so proud of the way you.
I don't actually know if it was a great way to resolve it, but
I mean, it was a great way to resolve it from your end.
From my end, yes, that is what
I'm not
needed
talking
to be
about
done.
their resolution. I'm talking about our resolution.
Yeah. No, so none of this has resolution from any end other than our end.
Yeah.
And so when I woke up that morning and I had that dream of something's missing, I'm like, look, we are in the fire and ice situation, right? We are either we see that we are not being helpful because I don't want to have anything to do with this because they're actively being mean and rude to us. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but there's no heart there. The heart is missing. And then I'm like, and they're confused of why. Like I realized, oh, they're confused that our actions seem so rude to them because they think that we are pulling one on them as opposed to just trying to separate from evil, right?
Yeah.
I say evil. Evil is a big word here, but in essence, that's what it is, right? We were meeting evil with evil. And so I just called and I just basically apologized I know, I apologized. And I said, I wanted to apologize and explain of what the situation actually is from my standpoint. Like how it looks to me and how it feels to me. And I said that from the beginning, the relationship started so rude and so strenuous that my only response, and I get triggered by rudeness and disrespect. And I said, so I got triggered. And so my response when I get triggered by somebody else's rudeness is to remove myself from the situation. And so then the situation removed itself by the client telling us that they were leaving us, I was really relieved. I'm like, oh, thank God, because it's not about the money.
Yeah.
Right? It's about separating myself from unnecessary evil.
And there have been.
But of course, I perceive that as evil. And I said, that is on me. I perceived your rudeness as rude. I didn't say word evil, but right. But it's just as rude. And I was actually trying to come up with the words, but then then they just left me with rude. They're like, it's just rude. The word he needs to hear right now is rude. And then he's like, well, I barely talk to you. And I was thinking, he's in defense of him. He's angry still. And I'm thinking to myself, look, he's justifying of why he didn't come across as rude, as opposed to actually just allowing me to hear me out and saying, regardless of how
you can barely talk to someone and still be rude. You can doesn't take too many words to be rude.
Well, but I'm intuitive, right? And I can read his energy. And so from his standpoint, he thinks that he needs to say so many words to me before I realize what his standpoint is. But as an intuitive, that's kind of like the blessing and the curse. I know exactly what he feels and what he thinks without even him saying a word, just his energy. Yeah. And so I said, it is on me. Because in my heart, I went, what is it that is on me, right? If this is love, the situation is love, where was my action that was not love? And that's what it was. Instead of telling him right away that I'm sorry, I don't know if you mean to or not, but you're coming extremely rude, right? That is what should have happened to begin with, as opposed to me going, I don't even want this relationship. And so the second he left, I was like, whew, thank God we're done with this, right? And then that was it. So my action was that. And he perceived it as like evil mastermind, of some sort. And so I'm like, your actions were perceived by me as very rude. And so my standpoint or my reaction to that is basically to break off the slate and clear this connection. And then I did clarify some business related things to him, after that, but not from the standpoint of submission to an aggressor, but from the standpoint of an open heart relationship.
Yeah.
Obviously, on his end, nothing was kind or perceived the right way, or was even said the right way. He was still continued to be rude to me, completely unbeknownst to self.
Yeah. Do you want to say how he ended it?
Did you know that I called him this morning?
Oh, this morning?
Yeah, I called him.
Again?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
That's how it ended.
Oh, I meant last time when you oh, then no, I don't know what happened today.
And no, so oh, you mean that conversation?
Yeah.
Well, no, the reason why I knew the conversation still did not end, the whole thing on our end, was you kept on saying, "Oh my gosh, this is a tremendous growth opportunity." Like, and it was the most amazing growth opportunity because you and I were in the fire and ice dualistic state of like clusterfuck of shit, still trying to figure out what's going on. I'm being triggered, right? But that is a question that is brought up in general. Like, as a human being, how do you respond with love and kindness to aggression and rudeness and malicious intent? Right. That's what it came down to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The remarks that come out of somebody else's mouth, they're so crude and rude. How do you like, it is super, super hard to stay in the open heart system, right? And then have utmost compassion for a human being that is spewing out, garbage at you, and then answer back with love. That's what it is. The fire and ice existing in its polar opposite form. A lot of times, even though it's made of love, it does not recognize the state of love within it. Right. And so, so it was like that, the trial of self. Yeah. And at the end, is that what you want me to say is what he said aloud to me?
If you want to. No,
he said that, it was such the tone, there's so much anger and rage that he said that, I wish this didn't have to have so many emotions in it.
Oh, that wasn't what I was going to say.
Oh, well, which part were you thinking about?
Like, if you have anything else, just talk to my lawyer.
Oh, well, no, it's just still rage and rudeness.
Yeah. But I mean, as a way to disconnect him from the situation.
Well, no, after I gave him everything that he needed by saying that you need to go to this place and say this thing that still has nothing to do with us. He was kind to say, if I need anything else, I'll call you. And I'm like, that's fine, but we will still respond to your lawyers. And he's like, just if there's any communications coming from the lawyers, make sure you still continue that route.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he wanted to make sure that we continue the lawyer route. No, but after the lawyers got involved, like, my heart sank even further. Of like,
it did. It's like, oh, this has gone from bad to worse.
Well, no, I felt bad for him,
right,
because he's now, not only is he in this bind out of his anger and rage, like, I saw him as a human being.
Yeah, but lawyers aren't cheap, and now you're throwing money at
the wrong direction.
You're like, we still have nothing to do with this, and bringing a lawyer into it against us is just wasting money. It makes, from the higher perspective, it makes no sense, and I don't want him to waste money. I don't want any of these things.
The right approach would have been, if he wanted to spend money and throw money, was to actually go out and hire an IT support company that specializes in IT support and pay them money.
And they could have probably figured it out.
Oh, no,
quickly.
They would have figured it out within seconds.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So he was spinning his wheels in anger and rage, but that that unprocessed anger and rage was causing him to stay in this stuck circle, right? What he does not see on his end is he's stuck in a circle, just like you and I are stuck within a circle between fire and ice, trying to figure out how do you address evil with love, right? How do you address Nazi Germany with love? And I know he's not Nazi Germany, but that is the question: is how do you address Nazi Germany with love? And I have such a big pain body against Nazi Germany that I still don't know, right? As a Jew and as a Ukrainian whose grandparents and whose house was occupied by Nazi Germany,
Mm-hmm.
how do you? I don't know.
Right.
Everything I heard within my childhood was how terrible the Nazis were and how much pain and suffering they caused onto not even the Jewish part of my heritage, just on the Ukrainian part of my heritage.
Yeah. I mean,
And then, right, like in that three-dimensional self-defense, how is there love?
yeah. I mean, you while neither of us obviously were alive during World War II, you're much closer to it than, me or, any American really. It's very removed from It's like, yes, obviously all these bad things happened, but they happened over there.
Yeah.
They didn't happen to us. We were involved, when the United States came in and saved the day. I'm just joking there. The Soviets saved the day. And I guess we helped to some degree.
No, the Soviets do admit that if it wasn't for United States on the the United States Army never made it to the Ukrainian and Russian border where the Nazis were.
To the Eastern Front.
To the Eastern Front.
Yeah.
But they did bring food and supplies. And so here I am getting emotional about it. So yeah, Soviets give them credit for that.
But the what was I? It's so removed from us. All these wars, we've never had a war over here.
Yeah.
Sort of the Revolutionary War. That it's just the idea of war is something that happens somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I can sit here and go, oh, it's terrible, and all these millions of Jewish people died, and millions of civilians, and millions of soldiers on both sides, and all that is absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
But I don't feel it as viscerally as I imagine you do.
Yeah. Well, no, I realized, I grew up raised by my grandmother who was occupied by the Nazi German soldiers during World War II. And she was a teenager. So I'm sure she was raped. I know she didn't say that, but everything implied that. There was other women in the household. I know they were raped. Her brother and his best friend were hidden in their cellar because they killed all the men, right? As they marched.
Anyone who could fight back.
Anyone who could fight back, who was not deployed because they were not old enough, or they were either too old because, they couldn't march, or they were too young because they were not of military age. But they were who stayed back, right? And they were supposed to help and work at the factories that produced stuff. And so at the time, before the Nazis got there, they were all working at the factories trying to produce the supplies. And I think most of the factories were, what's the word? Retooled for bullets and guns. And I remember my grandma saying that they did a lot of bullet, I think it was bullets, production after the retooling happened. But after the Nazi Germany occupied it, obviously the factories completely stopped because obviously you're not going to be making more bullets and guns while the Nazis already occupied a city. And so at the time they were staying home, but they basically became the servants for the Nazis. And I might have said this in a previous podcast, but the brother was hidden in the basement. They blocked off the obvious entrance to the fact that there was a basement. And then I think it was 3 months he lived in the cellar. And then every day they tried to find a time to sneak in some food into them back there. So, right, that is what I grew up with as a story of my heritage.
Yeah. My closest I have is one time there was a show on TV about I think it was World War II. And my grandfather walked through the room and said, "Oh, World War II, that was a rough one." I mean, he said it, and you could tell that there was something in there.
Yeah,
there was charge in there. Oh, that was a rough one. That's the extent of my experience with World War II.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
a rough one.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, well, no, understatement.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's Ukraine, this is going to be a rude statement and a lot of people will not like this, but Ukraine never processed the pain body of war from World War II.
Ukraine or the whole Soviet?
I don't know about the
States.
other Soviet. I mean, the fact that Russia's involved, I'm sure, yes, Russia and Ukraine for sure. But they never processed and allowed that trapped energy of unprocessed trauma to flow. And so the reason why Ukraine and Russia are in war right now is because this is giving them another cathartic opportunity to face it within a different frequency of Earth, right? If 1945 and 1942 was not a time frame to where you could even actualize your emotional state of being because you're just literally 101 survival, right? And of course, when she told me the stories in the 80s, not only I'm growing up with the story, I realize now as an intuitive, I'm feeling it,
Mhm.
right? Because now I realize, I can actually take myself back into that space.
Yeah.
Because the house that was occupied by Nazis, I would visit it because that's the house my grandma grew up with. I would
Yeah.
visit it like
Yeah.
almost on like twice a week basis. So I could feel the remnant energy of the war in the house.
Yeah.
And I felt uncomfortable there and I did not know why. And like later in my life, I realized, no, the house never lost its hold on the pain of occupational Nazi Germany, to the point where all the other houses that were also occupied by the Nazis were torn out by the construction, perestroika. And then my grandma's brother was given an opportunity to be given free apartments to live in so they could tear down this house, kind of like a buyout, but it's not of a buyout. It's like, we give you apartments. Now, granted, the size of the house was nothing. It was so much bigger than the apartment would have offered. And of course, there's land, and then there's a place for animals. They had rabbits and chickens. And, in no way would the apartment be able to compensate for everything that the house actually offered.
Right.
So even though
Did he take it?
No. And so it's funny on Google Maps, if you go there, there's all these like 12-story, 15-story buildings all around them, perestroika. And then there's their house in the middle of all of it. I want to say and then with him, there's like 2 or 3 others, but that's it. Like it was this whole neighborhood around them. And what's remaining is like this tiny little strip.
Sold out's the wrong word, but they all took that deal except these handful of houses.
Yeah. But the deal wasn't great, right? Like I understand the deal wasn't great.
It's kind of like was it Up? In Up, isn't he? He's the one house surrounded by all these other buildings.
In fact, the guy from Up looked like my grandmother's brother, kind of, only more angry, and more alcoholic. If you imagine the guy from Up,
he was pretty angry in the beginning of the thing.
Yeah. He was that angry, but imagine alcohol ended on top of that. And there's so much unprocessed trauma. Like he literally stabbed his own son while in alcoholic fit. But that is what unprocessed rage does. Unprocessed rage and anger results in that.
To bring it back, yeah.
Yeah. No, but in this case, this human being, when I had that dream, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so angry. And so he's pushing that rage and anger onto me and onto us. And I realized what I'm feeling out of this situation is his pain and anger and rage. And he's directing it towards us. But we have nothing to do with it. But I realized, look, to him, this is just another example of why his anger and rage is justifiable. But to me, it's just another example of why I don't want to deal with people who do not want to face their anger and rage.
Yeah.
Right? And so that was the lesson for me. And so I called them and I apologized and said, I did not say word anger and rage, but I'm taking your rudeness and I don't want to deal with it. And you're perceiving it as me being an evil, as if I have justification for
Sneaky or
evil.
something.
Yeah, but it's just simply a removal from not wanting to deal with anger and rage. And so like I think we had cacao that day, and I like felt how much pain he's in. And I was crying for him.
What happened today?
Well, yeah, and I was crying for him, and I told you, I'm like, I need to call
Oh,
him
that's right.
and offer him help. Like and I know, like
Yeah.
you were like, oh my God.
Well, because I'm like, people who are angry with suppressed anger, the last thing they want to hear is how angry they are.
Yeah.
And the other last thing they want to hear is, you
need to work on your
you
anger.
need to work on your anger. I can help you with, I talk to someone, that I can see how that would come across as insulting even.
Yeah. Well, do you think because on your end, anytime I tell you to go inside, not right now, but in 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when I would say,
it would be,
instead of you being blaming me,
it was a shot.
It was a shot.
It was a shot against me. Look how bad I am. Look how good you are. Look, it turns into this comparison thing.
Yeah, because you're approaching it from judging. You're being judged on the 3D on the 3D fire and ice land.
Here's a very big judgment against me. I take it very personally, and my ego is hurt, and and it just would make me angrier.
Yeah. No, in his case, he was vibrating the energy of unprocessed rage and anger, right? But the truth is, anytime you're vibrating the energy of rage and anger, it is because you're trying to protect the wounded child inside that is felt wrong by the situation.
Yeah.
That is what the situation is. Yeah. That is the truth of his situation. And so I saw the rage and anger, and I went, here's a human being who is refusing to process his emotions. And the only thing I'm getting from him is his thought and projection onto me being the aggressor. And I'm not the aggressor here. He's misunderstanding situation. But instead of me telling him that, right, which would have been the right thing to do, like really from the get-go.
Step one, yeah.
Step one would be, your anger and rage at me is misplaced because I have nothing to do with this. But ... you have anger and rage, right? And at least if nothing else, I perceive it, right? I'm not blaming you for it, I perceive it as such. Now, intuitively speaking, it was anger and rage.
Yeah.
And I can feel it. I can actually feel it after I sat down, after I brought my heart back into that space. It is so big, and it's like a sea of sorrow, and it is the most wounded child crying. And I'm going to start crying right now. Inside, out of pain and abandonment. And it was so hard to feel him on such an innate level and realize that here he is in my life, perceiving me as an aggressor, right? And I'm like, I mean, look at me, really, right? Like I'm crying over, somebody being a wounded child. But I realized, but he's in my life because I can feel his pain, right? And in my end, I have some resonance to where him aggressing me still in my mind has that bolting, like, oh, I'm not going to deal with somebody else being mean to me. I will walk away. But I realized, no, what I need to do is offer him help, right? Like from the beginning, what I should have done when he came to me with, I'm the enemy of the state, is to offer him help.
Yeah.
From the heart.
Right.
And so at some point I decided I need to call him and offer him help. And we were on the couch discussing this, and you were like,
right. But that is my initial response to that. It's like, it's not that I think it's a bad idea. It's that I'm afraid that I know that I have been in places where that would have done maybe more harm than good.
But did
But
it
would
did
it
more
really?
harm?
No, probably not.
No. But right, and the fact that you're using word afraid right now means you're once again in the density of fire and ice.
hmm
You're in that bottom
Right.
level of the rut where you're not in the heart space and seeing through the situation and
Right.
in fact inserting love into it.
When in truth, is it ever a bad idea to offer love and light and help? When would that ever be a bad idea?
Nope. I believe me, when I called this morning, I was shaking because I was like, this is not normal. This is not what humanity is right now. This
Yeah.
is not
Even
standard.
your previous conversation is not normal because
Oh,
I'm like,
yes.
because I was
Yes,
like,
I was shaking there
I
too.
was like, I am super duper impressed and proud of that, of you doing that. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because that would have been incredibly difficult for me to do. I don't know if I could have done it.
Well, no, I did it. I was shaking. I was thinking to myself, this isn't, you know what it was? I think, and this is what I'm realizing right now, is we have been programmed, especially in the business world, right? In his case, when he says, I wish this did not have, this did not get so emotional and you could have told me all of this without it. But he's not seeing the fact that he's an emotional rage and anger walking this planet, right? He's a business owner. He's in the business relationship with me. But in his mind, the fact that he has emotional trauma overflowing and spilling out into this business world. And I'm sure I am not the only company around him, or I'm not the only human being around him that is bolting away from the rage and anger that he's pushing out.
Right.
Right.
I've met plenty of people who have that
Je ne sais quoi.
je ne sais quoi to them. And it's like, I don't want anything to do with them.
Yeah.
I just want to remove myself from any situation that it's like, if I have 5, I'm trying to think of just the most generic thing that I can think of to not give away the industry.
Yeah, just whatever. Any service provider.
If I have 5 dentists, he's not a dentist. So if I have 5 dentists and one of them is just mean and a jerk, I'm not going to go to that dentist. Why would I go to that dentist when I have all these others that are not?
Yeah.
Why would I put then again, can I help this person? Can I help this dentist? Is there a
But this is the
obligation
lesson
to help?
This is the lesson here.
I
Is
don't
that
know.
the lesson here is we have lived our entire existence on earth. And I'm not saying 100%, but for most part, 100% of the time. And conceal, don't feel. Emotions are something you put in little boxes and then you don't acknowledge them and tuck them away. And you think that works.
Emotions, that's what women feel.
Yes, there were so many comments towards me about a woman being emotional from so many people in this scenario that I'm like, that is just appalling and misogynistic and sexist and rude in so many ways. And it's so hard not to react to that.
Right. And denying the fact that
everybody is emotional.
Even it's emotion that brings someone to even say that.
Right. There's no connection there. But I think that's what it is we think that our little boxes where we conceal, don't feel are working. We think that, all this rage and anger that I'm refusing to acknowledge and process, it's just tucked away into that little box. And come 5 o'clock, whenever I drink all the wine or all the beer or all the bourbon, in order to continue to have it suppressed into that little box, that's working. This is working, right? And we think it's working. And what we're not seeing, what this situation is that rage is spilling out and manifesting itself as more rage, as more justification for that, right? The rage that you feel wants to be processed. Like I started this thing. But because you're not processing and you think it's in that little box tucked away, far, far away from the world, that everything you're actually putting on forward, the fake happy face, is what the world is seeing. But that is not what the world is seeing. The world can feel the rage. Not just me as an intuitive, not just me as a psychic who could perceive other people's emotions and energy. The world feels it, right? one, women feel it. Let's just start with that. All women are so intuitive, not because men are not, because we allow ourselves to be. That we, by default, know exactly what somebody is feeling and thinking just because we're mothers and we never closed off that intuitive ability. Men feel it as well, but they walk around pushing it away. You feel it, but you just push it and push it and push it. Not say you, men who feel like those boxes exist. But the truth is, in your case,
I used to have I was very conscious of boxes. I had boxes, and I'm like, I like literally envision boxes, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to literally put this in this box, and it felt better because now I'm like, okay, it's in the box. If I ever want to deal with it, it's in there. But I'm just going to lock it up and put it in there. I literally did that mental exercise.
But I think we all did that because
I very consciously had a actual box in my mind that I put it in.
Was it pretty? Was it ugly?
It was more like a treasure chest, and then I would kind of lock it.
And like almost like a pirate
treasure chest, and then I would dump it in the ocean. I'm like, it's gone. I know where it is. It's in the ocean. If I ever need to get it back,
into the abyss.
Yeah, and it's
deep
like,
down,
okay, now it's down.
Oh, wow!
All right.
Not only is it a box that is on the shelf that you can take out, you dump it into the ocean.
It's in the box. It's locked with a big old pirate style padlock, and I throw it off the ship into the Mariana Trench. I know where it is if I ever need to get back to it, but I don't have to deal with it right now.
Yeah. So for anybody who's listening who still has boxes, just an FYI, there is no such thing as boxes.
Yeah.
Everything is actually sitting right here on the shoulders.
Turns out the boxes leak.
Yeah, everything is actually, here's the truth, is everything is actually right here around you, open and available for everyone to see and feel at all times.
Mm-hmm.
If you're still in the boxes phase of living, please realize the boxes do not work.
No, they don't work.
There's no such thing as boxes. Yeah.
What was it? The Our Flag Means Death, that show. At one point,
oh, that's a great show.
They were
with Taika and what's his name?
Rhys Darby.
Rhys Darby, yeah, they're so great.
At one point, one of the pirates was like, "How do you deal with the fact that you've killed all these innocent people?" And he's like, "Well, I take it and I put it in a box and I lock it up. It's fine." And I'm like, "Been there, done that."
I love it. No, that's what I'm gonna go back to my thought. That's what the society has been so far, especially in the business world, right? Like you and I have done business. And at all times when I have a client or even a potential client who comes up to me and they're just a dick, my automatic response is, guess what? I'm not even bidding on that contract.
Yeah.
As opposed to just going, guess what? I'm sorry, but I perceive your actions as rude, whether or not you're aware or not. My relationship with rudeness is not to engage in the business relationship. So, right, whether or not they agree with you or not, right, the statement, the acknowledgement of your truth is, I perceive something as rude.
Right.
Will be enough of a thought process to go, wait, I actually did not think I was rude here at all. And this person is misunderstanding it. But there will be a thought of like, wait, but if I wasn't being rude to them, but I was approaching it from this vibrational frequency that is perceived by rudeness, even wrongly so by that person, what is it that I'm bringing into the situation? And
who else is perceiving me as rude, even though I'm sure that I'm not being rude?
No, but the fact is there will be some thought process in the back of their mind, wait, I'm not being rude. This is just how people do business. There will be some nugget of thought there that will go, but what am I vibrating? If it's not rudeness, what is it that they're perceiving as rudeness that I am not being rude with?
And the idea of like just saying that would have been so horrifying to me, even very recently.
Well, no, it's hard. It's hard to say that.
I'm not saying it's easy even now, but I'm like that. It's so inspiring to be able to be that. Saying brutally honest makes it sound like it's a bad thing. It's like
vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
It's vulnerable.
It's vulnerable. It's like, hey, I am feeling something out of this, and that makes me disinclined to have anything to do with you. But instead of just not replying to your email or not replying to your voicemail, I'm going to at least explain why.
Yeah. You know what? But that is what I should have done from the beginning when I first spoke with him.
That's what
From
I
the
should have
first
done
conversation.
because I had a conversation with him, and within 30, 45 seconds, it went jabby. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if I had just said, hey, what you just said sounds like a thinly veiled insult.
Yeah.
That is not cool. I don't want that. I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah. But in your case, your box is you feeling what you're feeling, you being afraid to speak it up, and then somebody gaslighting you.
Mhm.
And so you don't want to enter into that situation.
Because I know where that goes. It goes into, well, I didn't say anything mean.
Well, 'cause
you're misinterpreting it.
So the reason why you're not saying it is because you have been raised by narcissists who gaslighted you your entire life. So to you, you're like, well, it's not even worth it because I'll just get gaslighted.
Yeah.
And that will, that box will continue to be a box.
Mhm.
Right. And in my case this is a bully. I have dealt with bullies all my life and I rolled over for them. I don't want to roll over. And so that's what my box is I'm standing up for myself.
Yeah.
And right, so you would go, well, what you don't stand up for yourself from the 3-dimensional standpoint, right? But you're not verbalizing your vulnerable truth, right? Which is, in business world, I was like, the reason why I'm so shaky about it is because I'm literally taking something that most people put in like spiritual development bucket. Like, oh, when you and I have cacao, we have spiritual development talks. When we have cacao ceremonies, here's a space for that.
Yeah.
But business relationships don't have space for that.
There's no room for emotion in business.
Right?
Business is business and business must grow.
You're right. And then thus that separation is what causing the earth of 2024 to be what it is right now. And it cannot continue forward the way it is then. And that's it. So the narrative has to change. And the only way I realized that I could change the narrative, if not for the world, but for me, is to go, okay, I failed within the last 5 days to say that your actions right now, your accusatory actions and rudeness is being perceived as rude. I have it as a trigger. You might not mean it that way, but this is my truth and this is my situation right now. Honestly, regardless of how he reacts to it, that is my truth and that needs to be verbalized.
Yeah.
Right? Because a relationship cannot function if I go into a defense mode and either reply with evil back and he will go, wait, why is this person so fucking rude to me? Or not reply at all. Both of those were wrong actions on my behalf.
Yeah.
So no, I called and I apologized and it went however it went. The whole situation kind of went away. But then as I was sitting there reminiscing back on why it became what it was, and for me that much confusion, but for him really a complete fall apart. And it's because I realized that he's walking around with trapped energy and to him it's a complete disaster. I'm walking around with complete energy and I'm just walking confused, right? It's not a disaster, but it is just his disaster is allowing to be touched by me. And I realized if I just approached it as a Buddha or as Jesus from open heart standpoint and I spoke my 3-dimensional honesty to him, whether or not it would allowed him to speak it back to me or not, it would be irrelevant. But I did not see the compassion in him being as a wounded child. And I perceived that aggression as a personal attack, even though deep down I knew it wasn't on me.
Right. It's like even when the first time I talked to him and it was these snarky comments, I'm like, he doesn't know me. I don't know him. I've never met this person. We've spoken on the phone for 45 seconds just on pleasantries about, oh, where do you happen to, where do you work? Where do you live? And it's like, so it's obviously not me. It's just, that's just his nature. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just sensitive enough to those type of jabs that I'm like, ooh, I notice it. And, file that away under A for asshole or whatever.
No, I told him that I'm like, you know what? You were so rude that I just handed you over to Elliot so he could deal with you and I didn't have to deal with you. And I'm like, okay, that was completely wrong on me because, strength wise, I was probably in the better position to deal with him.
Probably.
Than you. But that brought up a whole bunch of business relationship things that we were still not processing. So no, this was extremely beautiful.
Right.
But I think it came down to, at all times, I did not see him for what he was, which is just a wounded child crying out and his world completely falling apart. And here I am, part of his orbit, who sees through it. But instead of responding into it from a heartfelt, intuitive, like love standpoint, I responded from like the business sense, the business world of like, yeah, well, you don't tell people that they're rude in the world of business.
Right.
You don't tell people that whatever you're doing is not healthy.
There's no room for the truth in business. Almost.
Well, it's
that level of truth, emotional truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no that's not a business thing. Maybe it should be. I think it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard to even wrap my head around saying that to someone, but at the same time, I know that is the right thing to do.
No, in my dream, whenever I felt that piece missing, and I'm like, what's missing is heart. This person has not in their heart,
right?
But they're wounded and crying.
It's like,
and then the anger and the rage is them just being wounded and crying. And I feel that, like I feel it intuitively. And so when I was on the couch crying for this human being, I'm like, my heart wants to reach out and help him, not at this
3D level of
3D useless level that he thinks is the end of his world, but at the core where he is broken and he is trying to protect himself, and where he is trying to make a world for himself, make a name for himself, so people perceive him a specific way. And it was just so painful, and it was so hard, and I was just crying. And yeah, and so when I told you, like, oh, I need to call him and offer him help, right? You were like, oh, and I went, he's right. This is not something you do in business. This is not a business transaction. A crazy person does not call somebody, right, and go, you know what? I know you're experiencing a lot of unprocessed emotions right now. So if you need someone to talk to, I want you to know that I'm there for you. That is not normal, because we have made it not normal.
Right, because we've made it not normal.
We made it to where we think these boxes exist.
Right.
We think these boxes are there, and they work.
Sort of a maybe a professional therapist maybe could get away with it, because then it is actually business. Maybe. But even then, it's like it traditionally it feels out of line.
Yes. And that's so I have realized that the world is broken because we have created artificial lines, and we believe that they exist.
Yeah.
We believe the boxes exist. Everything is structured and separated, and we do not have heart, not only in personal life, where we are able to address our own issues, even with the close ones, the ones we love, because those relationships are falling apart because there's no honesty there. That also extends into business relationships. And this was a business relationship that I went, if this is what his truth is in everyday life, in business, imagine how bad it is for him on interpersonal household relationship with his loved ones around him. Like, I felt that, and I'm like, that's falling apart. That's gone. But imagine how bad it is on the inside. And I couldn't bring myself not to do something about that. So I called. And
how'd that go?
It went. It went. I said, he answered and he was rude. And I'm like,
because he knew it was you?
I'm sure he knew it was me, but I think that that's his tone, period. Like, he doesn't even realize that his baseline tone of voice is rude and standoffish.
Doesn't matter if it's you, who is, let's be honest, probably someone he's not too happy with right now. Or if it's,
his loved ones.
Wife or girlfriend, I don't know.
Yeah, his loved ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that. And so, yeah, I just said that I know this is not going to be taken well. It will not be perceived well. But I'm feeling compelled and feel like I need to do this, and offer my help in case you ever need to talk to somebody about the unprocessed emotions that you have inside of you. And I'm like, right now you will not feel like this is the right time to do, but in a month or two when things change for you, I just want you to know that I'm there for you. So that was it. I know.
That was it. Click, or that was it.
No, he he didn't say anything as I was saying it, and it was only maybe like a minute or two because I tend to. It's like
I want to get it all out before I'm cut off.
yeah. I was like, okay, I'm shaking, right? Because this is abnormal.
Sure.
Your reaction to it also made me feel.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad about that. No, I feel bad about the reaction because I know that from the higher perspective, it was the wrong reaction. I know that it was my natural reaction, but it is.
But the reason,
now that I've thought about it, I'm like, that's my 3D reaction. That's not the higher reaction that I should have.
No. I felt the need to do that from the higher space of love. But I wanted to run by you because this is
a crazy thing to do.
Even by right, if I'm not in a higher space of love, that is the only thing that I can possibly. There's nothing in my life that I would do, or other than to reach out to somebody who is crying on the inside and offer them help.
And I'm like, from the higher space, it's obviously the right thing to do. But from the lower space, I'm like, I can see how it could be interpreted as insulting, even.
Yeah, no, I know. And I said, you probably will not take this well, and maybe this is not even the right time. No, I said, you probably won't take this well, but I think things will change for you in a month or two. And when they do, please think back on this. I said that. I think I said that. I don't remember.
What did he say?
No, the only thing he said at the end was, he said, thank you for offering an olive branch. And I'm like, is that a religious statement? I don't know what an olive branch. I know what an olive branch represents as like a peace.
Yeah.
But I think he interpreted it as like, we have just had a clusterfuck of shit, and you want to amends and make peace with our situation.
Yeah. As it's not exactly that.
Yeah, I think that is how he interpreted it. He interpreted it as like,
hey, are we still cool?
Yeah,
type of a thing.
Yeah, as opposed to what I said is help you process unprocessed trauma or unprocessed emotions. I think he interpreted how he needed to interpret it right now.
Mm.
But I do think it will get interpreted a different way within 2 months.
Maybe.
No, I know.
I mean, if nothing else, it plants the seed that there's, work to be done. With you, without you, irrelevant.
No, it is right. I think intuitively, we all at some point have pulls towards an action that is uncommon and that is maybe perceived weird or crazy by social norms. And I have had those actions before, and I have not
streaking. Streaking. Wait, what are you talking
about? Right, and I have held myself back because, like, my small mind went, "Oh my gosh, this is totally crazy. It's going to be perceived as crazy. This is just like," but it did not come out of space of like, "Oh, look, I'm high and mighty, and I think I am somehow." It comes space of pure love. I feel you as a human being, and I feel you so much, and I feel your pain so much that I want to offer you, let's say, an olive branch. Whatever that means to him. I think it means something different to him than it does to me. But it doesn't matter. Right? And so my conscious, this is not about me, myself, making my conscious feel better from the three-dimensional standpoint. This is me quite literally not denying my intuitive call not to undo the clusterfuck that I caused by not being in my heart space to begin with. But once I enter into my heart space, seeing that he was there for me, one, for the personal lesson of my development, for the personal lesson of your development, but then also post that, besides the lesson that I'm still trying to get out of it and learn it and reanalyze it, and we still having a podcast about it, he's also there as a change, an opportunity to change the narrative of what is the normal and the status quo in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's that big.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is. I'm now in the position that this is obviously the right thing to do. It's obviously for you, for me, for everybody to be able to have these jarringly honest discussions and conversations with people. It's hard.
Mhm.
I think it will be very difficult, and I hope that whenever I'm presented with an opportunity, I'll recognize that it's an opportunity and not do the easy thing, which is just roll my eyes and walk away or whatever.
Yeah. No, I was relieved that I could walk away, right? Like that to me it was like I was relieved because like he was an aggressor and a bully and rude. And instead of seeing an opportunity for higher interpretation of love, I was on the three-dimensional level, I was happy that I didn't have to deal with that rudeness. Right. And it's like, all along there was an opportunity along the way.
Right. And if we had started from that open heart space, I think his 3D situation would have been resolved earlier too. Not because we did anything, but because, from a 3D perspective, he's no longer focusing his energy on the wrong thing, I
Yeah.
guess. But then from a non 3D perspective, you know, someone said, kindness is free. You should sprinkle that stuff everywhere. And this isn't specifically kindness, but open heartedness is free. And you should sprinkle that stuff everywhere too.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. Crazy. I don't know. I, I think this will still continue to propagate itself and spill out into all kinds of ways. But
Yeah.
I just
All right.
wish I was in my heart space earlier.
Yeah, me too.
But this does make it very obvious that it's hard to be in your heart space
It is
when you're just
in defense mode.
when you're experiencing, even if you're yourself coming from heart, is hard to stay in heart if somebody else is, because the energy of anger and aggression has so much more density than heart space. And the second that resonance catches within you, it like flares that back up, right? And so there's that battle between the light and the dark, I guess, within you of like, what does the light look like, right? As opposed to being in the fire and ice, right?
Mhm.
Rising above in the light. I don't know. Do you think I should read that thing or
Yeah,
it's
sure.
irrelevant? There you go. You're learning to hold the tension of opposites, of those things that don't immediately seem to go together within your being without collapsing into confusion, judgment, or denial. There's a passion and sincerity, creation and destruction, new life and death emerging within you, within your relationships. Sometimes this is hard to handle. You want to make things simpler, to just let go of the conflict and complexity and choose one or the other. If you're grand enough soul to be able to withstand the rigorous of depth, to go deep, to live fully, to let the divine have its way uh, through you requires a willingness to stand at the center of the pairs of opposites and eventually know that they are connected to each other, that they are existence only in a relationship to each other, to breathe and simply be. If you're consciously feeling the conflict in your life, internally and externally, then you're being initiated through fire and ice. Stay present, be patient, and wait. There's nothing to fix here, just waiting to step into the divine creation continues to unfold through you. As you master this initiation, you will find sweet nectar of bliss dripping within. The oracle brings you guidance that the conflict you feel within or externally is a sign of your spiritual growth. Soon you will grow larger than the conflict, but for now, you do not need to engage it. Simply be present to it and allow it to work its way through you until they're strong enough to have outgrown the conflict, giving rise to the clear direction. It may seem impossible. It may seem impossible, beloved, but it is not. You're a vast being. Give yourself a chance to realize this and have patience. All is becoming, including you, according to the perfection of the divine design. These oracles bring you specific guidance on any relationship matter requiring a decision, until you have a simple clarity of your heart, beyond the pushing away and pulling closer. Then it's time to wait, for there is no more yet to be revealed. Only when your heart speaks clearly, then you will do well to act as feel truthful for you. Then you will do well to act as feel truthful for you.
Yeah. We could have just read that instead of doing the episode.
Right. Right. The clarity of the heart. Right. But in that space, when we knew we were missing something, right?
That's the funny thing, is that we kept going. It's like we feel this way, and we're at least aware enough to go, well, we feel this way, but yet that feels incomplete. And it's like, yes, the withdrawing is definitely better than engaging in anger. That's a good step.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, oh, this isn't great either.
Fire and ice, right?
This isn't great either. This feels like, sure, less bad, but still not great. And there's something else. And it's like, what is the other, because we're stuck in this 3D, and it's like, well, I don't want to fight. Here I am, withdrawing. That kind of sucks. What's the rolling over and doing work for free doesn't make sense. Helping someone who's aggressive doesn't make. What is the right thing? And it's like, go up.
We're going to the heart.
Go up to an open heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have an open heart conversation, and like,
yeah,
that really can't do any harm.
No. It's you wait until you are able to find your open heart. Right. But in our case, waiting wasn't necessary. The heart should have been open to begin with.
Right.
Right. And I think it was to come down to is we have been living so much in a closed heart society, in business, in personal life, in the approach to self-love, right? That like it is uncomfortable and is like, well, no, this seems completely crazy.
It seems completely crazy from
right. We the client, I don't know if we mentioned this on the podcast or not, but we had our latest client that we had was like the most heart, right? And I think what it came down to is the fire and ice showed us the opposite of how to have a client with like all heart, and then it sunk us down to the level of like, here's no heart.
Yeah. Here's everybody's somewhere on this continuum. I'm sure there's even more extremes in both directions, but
yeah. But how
this is
the difference of
this
how
is like the most open-hearted client we've ever had, and this is probably the most closed-hearted one that we've had, at least recently.
Yeah. Right. But both of them showed us like, this is how business should be done. This is how the world of business should function, through an open heart, and it hasn't been.
Along with an open heart comes, honesty and respect, and it's not saying that everything goes smooth. It may not.
I think if we're an open heart, things would go smooth.
I would think they would tend to go smoother, but things happen. People make mistakes, misunderstand, whatever. But that's all beside the point. The 3D, things going well or not is beside the point to me. It's how do you approach the relationship, and how do you handle the things that go good or not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And are you, from the closed heart, it's their fault, it's your fault, you need to fix this, all types of stuff. And from an open heart, it reminds me of something that I just read that I think is beautiful. Like, a lot of times when people, especially couples, they have fights, it turns into me versus you. Oh, you say something and it puts me on the defensive, and I go on the offensive, and it's me versus you. When it should be us versus whatever the issue is, whatever the problem is. It's like, we're a team. We should come together and try to figure out the solution to the problem, instead of me going, no, my way's right, and you going, no, your way's right, and that.
Yeah, but you said that, but you do realize the problem is us versus me, you versus me. That is the problem.
Sometimes it is, which
it's most of the time that's the only problem.
Right. Well, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Well, no, but that's it. The fact that anything exists as a problem is because it's you versus me.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like the
I
problems don't exist if it is not you versus me.
right.
If
If
we're
it's
in a cohesive, heart open space, there is no problem. Like,
yeah, I'm saying, if there's like a 3D problem of, oh no, we don't have enough money to do something, then
it becomes a fight.
I imagine some people would turn it into, oh, you spend too much, oh, you just did whatever, I don't know, instead of, hey, let's come together and let's figure this out as a team. Where I was going was in a business relationship, it turned into, him versus us or whatever, when it could have been us versus whatever this perceived problem happens to be.
Yeah. But us was
Us, all three of us. I mean,
us was on the defensive because we don't want to deal with
right,
rudeness.
right,
And he perceived us as bad guys because we don't want to deal with them.
right. And so it was him versus the two of us instead of all three of us unified versus whatever the issue happened to be.
Yeah, but I think the issue needs to be addressed on the emotional level of unprocessed energy.
Yes. When I say the issue, I'm not talking about whatever the technical issue happens to be. I'm talking about the higher issue.
Yeah. The higher issue is you come across as an aggressor from your unprocessed pain, and I don't want aggressors from my unprocessed pain. And this is creating conflict.
Yeah.
He's not meaning to do what he's doing. I'm not meaning to do what he's doing, but we're both getting triggered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Through our unprocessed cumulative trauma.
Right. And that's, there's no way to avoid aggressors in this world. They're just out there. You're going to bump into them.
But the reason people are aggressive is because they're in the wounded child state of being, trying to defend or perceive
right. Where I was going
control
is
or solution or something.
So avoiding all aggressors is not a great solution. It's like, well, they're just there.
Well, they're there, but I guess what I mentioned to you is at some point one can feel responsibility to reach out and help.
Right.
And I'm not saying everybody maybe feels this. Like maybe most people don't feel that. But I'm reaching a point in my life where I feel somebody so intuitively close and so vulnerably that the only thing that my open heart space wants to do is help. Not because I'm judging, not because it is bad, not because I'm good and they're bad. It has nothing to do with that person and me person on the 3-dimensional level. It is a completely vibrational frequency of me being one with him. And our oneness is causing me to want to help him actualize into his actual love as opposed to the pain that he chooses to sit in. Right.
Yeah.
And so I always struggle with individuals choosing pain. Right. It is such a
blindly, but they're choosing pain.
No, yeah, it is blindly, but it just seems, I have always said this, it just seems such a unfortunate choice.
Human condition
that we want to continue to exist in pain.
Right. Well, we don't, maybe we don't see it as, I don't know, maybe we don't see it as a choice, but maybe we don't see any other option. I think, the other option is not apparent to us.
No,
in that moment.
I do want to say that there are people who came here. We all came here to experience pain, right? So that I'm not saying we should avoid all pain. That is not what I'm saying. We're here to experience pain. We're here to experience the wide breadth of all human emotions. But sometimes we get so lost. We get lost in the idea that this is our decision. And we get lost in the pain. Like we came to experience pain, but at some point the pain becomes so overwhelming and the density of pain becomes so big, we forget that that was a choice that we came here to live. Like
Mhm.
that was the game we came here to play. And that is the condition that I'm speaking about, is that
Mhm.
if I can remind somebody that this is a game that they chose to play, in any point they can actually turn the dial up and down on the amount of pain that they're choosing here to experience.
Right.
That's, you
Us
know,
feeling the pain, being angry about it, blaming, Alice and Bob and the whole world for the pain and being the victim, all those things just compound the pain.
yeah, oh yeah, no, at this point, this human being is completely enveloped. Um, is that the word? In pain, right? There's nothing outside of him that perceives anything other than that.
Yeah.
Um, Now that I say this, I think I am realizing there's somebody else in the world that is also in this exact same position. Um, and so I feel the cumulative effect of humanity, of all the humans in the world who are choosing this route. And then that route is probably, you know, maybe the exit strategy is that. Maybe, I will exit out at the point where I cannot handle anymore. Like the pain is so overbearing that this is it for me. And that will be their exit point. And I think what I can feel is I can feel people on the brink of that, like the brink of that exit point. I'm trying to think if it is wrong then to interfere with the will of the universe and their personal choice into the souls. It's a whole other topic that I struggle with. Is if right, what does interfering look like?
Yeah. I don't know.
That's what I thought. I'm like, okay, I'm not interfering. I'm not trying to change the energy. I'm not trying to do anything. In this case, if I just offer
An olive branch.
an olive branch, then it is up to them to then choose to
Right.
receive it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the best I can do.
You can offer.
You know, wrap.
That's a wrap. Thanks for listening.